Hi everyone, my name is Upashana De, and I am a researcher at Boston Consulting Group in Bangalore. In this video, I will be presenting my ongoing project for Module 6, Unit 3, focusing on Vietnam. In this presentation, I'll be answering the question, which three interventions would I promote to increase development performance in Vietnam? I'll also be assessing the importance of political will in development and presenting policies that work to overcome barriers to growth. To begin, let's briefly look at Vietnam's developmental context. Vietnam is widely recognized as one of Southeast Asia's biggest development success stories. Over the last 3 decades, the country has made a remarkable transition from an agrarian and low income society to a dynamic as well as export oriented economy. The country's Doi Moi reforms, introduced in 1986, marked a true turning point. They shifted Vietnam from a centrally planned economy to a market oriented system. As a result, Vietnam has maintained an average annual GDP growth rate of about 6 to 7%, and poverty has also fallen dramatically. From around 70% in 1980s, it is can you even guess that it is less than 5% now? However, despite this progress, Vietnam still faces a lot of challenges, including income inequality, environmental degradation, limited institutional transparency, and a need to strengthen its human capital in order to compete in this global digitalized economy. Throughout its journey, political will has played a critical role, I would say. The government's strong leadership, commitment to reform, and long term planning have consistently pushed Vietnam towards modernization and stabilization. In the rest of this presentation, I will discuss three key interventions that I think can help Vietnam further improve its development performance. First, strengthening institutional capacity and governance. Second, advancing green and inclusive industrialization. And third, investing in education and digital skill that is very significant for the future. Let's start with intervention number one, strengthening institutional capacity and governance. One of the major barriers to sustained development in Vietnam is the issue of institutional inefficiency. There are bureaucratic delays, inconsistent policy enforcement, and limited transparency across different regions in the country. These factors can discourage investment, slow public service delivery, and undermine citizens' trust in government institutions. To address this, Vietnam should focus on building stronger and more efficient and more transparent institutions. Some of the key actions I would recommend include implementing a comprehensive e-governance system to digitize complex administrative processes that are very manual and reduce paperwork. Establishing independent anti-corruption oversight bodies and representing that represents also at a regional level is also very important. From a theoretical perspective, these interventions align with modernization theory, which emphasizes that institutional and technological reforms are essential for sustainable development. It can, you say, also connect to the good governance model, which highlights the importance of transparency, accountability, and the rule of law in promoting investment and economic growth in a region. In this context, political will is absolutely vital. Vietnam's government has already shown determination through ongoing public sector reforms and anti-corruption campaigns. Continued commitment from political leaders will be necessary to make these institutional changes lasting as well as effective. Moving on to intervention number two. The intervention number two is basically advancing green and inclusive industrialization. Vietnam's rapid industrialization has fueled economic growth, but it has also created significant environmental challenges, including pollution and increase in carbon emission. To ensure sustainable and inclusive growth, Vietnam must embrace green industrialization, a developmental approach that prioritizes environmental protection while promoting economic progress. The government should introduce tax incentives and subsidies for companies that invest in renewable energy or adopt clean technologies. It should also develop eco industrial parks where industries share resources, recycle waste, and reduce emissions collectively. Additionally, Vietnam should promote technology transfer partnerships with international organizations and private sector players to support green innovation. This intervention is supported by sustainable development theory, which stresses that balance between economic, social, as well as environmental objective is absolutely necessary. It also reflects dependency theory, which argues that developing countries should move beyond reliance on low value exports and build self sustaining, technology driven industries. Now, let's move on to intervention number three, investing in education and digital skills for the future. Human capital development is at the heart of Vietnam's next stage of growth. The country has a young and dynamic population, but as the world shifts from automation and digital transformation, sorry, as the world shifts towards automation and digital transformation, Vietnam must ensure that its education system prepares workers for the future economy. To do this, Vietnam should reform its national curriculum to include courses more on digital literacy, data analysis, coding, critical thinking, etc. It should also expand technical and vocational training programs known as TVET to better align the skills needed by the modern industries. Furthermore, the government could form public private partnerships PPP with technology companies and educational institutions to develop digital learning platforms and innovation hubs. This would help equip both students and working adults with tools required for lifelong learning and productivity. This intervention draws on human capital theory, which highlights the link between education, skill, and productivity. It also reflects endogenous growth theory, which emphasizes that knowledge and innovation are the key drivers of long term economic growth. But again, once again, political will plays a central role. The Vietnamese government has already begun implementing educational reforms, but sustained investment and coordination are essential to ensure that every region, including rural areas, benefit from these initiatives. Thank you so much for taking time out to listen to this presentation. Thank you.